welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to finish off Sleeping Beauty. And we're going to go and discuss the Ballet Arizona's production of Sleeping Beauty. I did go to see that with my daughter. She did not do as well as she did with the Frozen. So if your child is bouncy, even if they do well at some specific children's things like, you know, the Frozen the musical, no. The ballet, too boring. At least for my kid. So she was very, very bored. So as much as I thought I might have see if I could take her to Nutcracker with me, that is not happening. She's not going with ballet with me for a bit yet. We'll see next year. But let's get on with this. So this is the typical, let's see, how many acts here? So this is a 3-act. So actually it's a 4-act. They do the prologue, they do act 1. They do the prologue, they do the act 1, which is the birthday party. That's where you meet Sleeping Beauty for the first time, and she puts her finger on it. And that's where the Rose Adagio is, which is extremely famous. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Then you have the intermission. So you have prologue. They did the prologue, then they did the intermission. And the prologue, of course, is the christening almost kind of thing. It's where the fairies are there and things are being entertained. They are presenting a baby. They have a doll. You see the king and queen and the curses and the Carabus, I believe is the term. That is the evil fairy in this. And then the lilac fairy is the one that doesn't so much reverse the curse, but it's like she's not going to die. She's just going to fall asleep until true love's kiss makes her wake up. They don't specify the age. And again, in the original French version, they don't really specify the age either. It's either 15 or 16. So that's the prologue. And of course, the act 1 is her birthday party. She's however age. She's like 15 or 16. She pricks her finger eventually because the Carabus shows up as an old lady, and then she falls asleep. And the lilac fairy shows up. It's like, oh no, she's just asleep. She's not dead. And then you have intermission, and then you have the hunt. So this is where you meet our prince for the first time, and the prince in this story is Desiree. That is his name. Aurora is the name they use for Sleeping Beauty in this. So this is he's in the forest. He's with his servants. He's being flirted with by this duchess. And they're dancing around. And then you have Act 2, which is the vision. This is where the lilac fairy gives him a vision of Aurora. And there's a lot of dancing around. And he's moving around. And apparently he gets in a ship. And they sail to the castle. And then you have Act 3. So this is where it's the wedding day, and you get to see a variety of different creatures, and it's the presentation of the prince and the king and queen and everything, and that's the end. So in our Sleeping Beauty, I will give you the casting of at least our main characters. So in our that we saw, because again, there's a couple different casts. So they do a let's see how many. Let's see, they did the 23rd evening, the 23rd, and the evenings of both the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. So they did, and then they did matinees, which is what we saw. We were there on the 26th. So they did a matinee on the 26th, and the 25th. Yeah. And then they did they did an evening on the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. And then they did evenings on all, and then they did matinees on, looks like the 26th, the 25th. Yeah. It's just the 26th and the 25th where they did the matinees, because those are the weekends. So this is our cast. So our Aurora was played by um, Madison Penny. She's actually new to the um, Ballet Arizona. And then our prince was Helio Lima, who I've seen dance before. He's been with this company for a while. The Kerabos was Eastland Jensen, again, been part of the company for a while. Our Lilac Fairy was played by Catherine Lexerkamp, again, one of the principals. Then the Queen was Sasha Vincent, who I'm assuming was staff. And then Daniel Burdenstell was the king. Again, he's not part of the company. And then the Casserole Boot, which I'm guessing is the guy who was presenting everybody, was played by Luis Martinez. He, I think he's a choreographer now. He retired last year from the company. So that is, that's the main cast. So in the prologue, you have a couple different fairies. And I will read off just for the prologue some of the single characters. So we had the Crystal Fountain Fairy, was actually played by Allie Chester, who's again one of the principals. The Enchanted Garden Fairy was played by Natalie Ramirez. And then you had the Woodglade Fairy, who was played in this case by Cheyenne Yu. And then the Songbird, which was played by Mackenzie Thomas. The Golden Vine was played by Lindsay Camden, who's actually my favorite dancer in the company. And then you have attendants, and you have the Fairy Cavaliers, which are the gentlemen. The Kerabos' creatures, the footmen, the court, and then you had the children, which you had fairies and king and queen pages, the king and queen and the fairies pages, which were played by students. And then some of these, because of this production, throughout their productions, they do, besides their regular primary cast of their the members of the ballet, they also use, the children are played by students, and then they have their studio company that also does that also participates in here. So then you have so all of these people dance. Each of the fairies and their attendants and stuff have different dances throughout the prologue. And then you have Act 1. So obviously you have Aurora here. You have the Garland Waltz. Then you have Aurora's friends that dance. And then you have the four suitors. Now, in this you have what's called the Rose Adagio. And this is difficult. The reason this is difficult for Aurora specifically to do is you have four suitors. So these are four male dancers. And she has to stand in I think it's normally arabesque, which are basically, she's on one foot, on point with her legs straight out. It might be attitude, which means the knee is bent, but still she's on one foot with her leg in the air. And she has to keep one arm in fifth, which is on top of her head. And then she's holding a prince's arm, and then he has to steady her. They spin her around, and then she has to switch. She has to get her arm back into, the other arm back into fifth. So she has, basically, here, she has an arm up here, and then she holds onto the prince. He turns her around, and then she's holding on. She's steady. When he lets go, she has to get her arm up here, get it back down, and hold on to the other prince. And she has to do this not 4 times. I think because it's a classical, they do this step at least twice to 3 times. I think they do it 3 times. She has to do this 3 times, all 4. So that is the Rose Adagio. It is very, very difficult. There's also, I think, in the Act 3, there's a couple of swan dives, which is where the girl like falls on his knee. From my own watching, particularly of Catherine Morgan, he has nothing to do with that. She is the one who's balancing and holding her body. So he's not doing anything besides sitting there on his knee. So it's all her. But yeah, that is the Rose Adagio. Come January, I will in fact review Alice in Wonderland, which I will be going with my sister. And I mentioned this here because they do a spoof on the Rose Adagio with the Queen of Hearts. And I am looking forward to that because it is supposed to be absolutely utterly hilarious. But that is, again, in Act 1, she does that Rose Adagio. Her friends dance. Then she comes out again. And then she pricks her finger and she's like, oh, I'm sick. And she's like, am I okay? Am I okay? It's sick. And then she collapses. And then you have intermission. And then you open up with the hunt, where you have this Duchess, who I will read for ours. This is the one who's flirting with the prince, who is played in this case by Genevieve Herron. And then her Desiree's friend, who's in apparently all of them, is Louis Corrales. I'm guessing she is part of the corps, because otherwise she wouldn't be playing incessantly. And then you have ladies and gentlemen, which is a bunch of people with him, and then their servants. So, and a lot of these are, members of, they're either just members of the corps or members of the student company. So they dance around, and then they leave. You're like, you're going to come with us? It's like, no. And then you move into the Lilac Fairy, who gives him this vision. So, and then you have basically the corpse, where in this case it's played, and this is everybody, this is, all of these people play in every act. Well, not every act, but in every ballet that they put on, basically. Why can I not think? But in every time, basically every night and afternoon. So all of these people dance at this time. So a lot of, that's the way the corps work. They are not specific timing. So, but yeah, then, so, and they travel off in a boat. So, and then they have a pause, and then you move on to Act 3, which is the final act. So everybody's dancing. You have a whole bunch of people who are dancing throughout this, and then you have 3 different, very specific kind of fairy tale characters. You have Puss in Boots and the White Cat, and in ours, those were played by, let's see, Ali Chester and Louis Oliveira. So that was our Puss in Boots and the White Cat, and they do their own little dance. And then they have Prince Florin, or Princess Florine, and who's played by, sorry about that, child interruption. I really should do this when she's asleep, but she's been going to bed way too bloody late. Okay, so I already did the print. This is Bluebird. Bluebird is known for as also being a very difficult dance, and this is for the male. So you have Princess Florine, who in our case was played by Lindsay Camden. Again, she is my favorite dancer, so I loved watching her. And the Bluebird in ours was played by Eric Rojas, and I believe he's been with the company for a while. So this is amazing. They have to do a lot of leaps and jumps, and they have to do this when they're jumping, they have to do this tiny little feet work where they're fluttering their feet. So it's very, very difficult. So, and then you have Red Riding Hood and the Wolf. And for us, those were played by Aaron Mariciso, I'm mispronouncing this, Meseros and Jordan Isles. One thing to know about Ballet Arizona is there is a lot of international dancers in here, particularly from Brazil and other places in South America. So that's part of the reasons I have issues reading some of these things. So I really enjoyed this. My daughter, again, was very restless, so it's very, very beautiful. I love the costumes. They're so gorgeous. I love the caribou. Her costume is just, it's black and it's messy and it's so much fun. And the costumes are gorgeous. They're like glittery and crystally, and the fairies are amazing. Aurora really doesn't play much big part in this. She doesn't. I mean, it really isn't. She doesn't play a big part of the story either. It's like, you don't see her at the prologue. It's like, yeah, she's a baby. You don't really see her. Then you see her again in Act 1, and she collapses, and then you're in the hunt, so you don't see her, and you're in the vision, and she's not there except for a little bit. She does dance in the vision. I'll say this. So she dances in a little bit because you have to have her show up occasionally a little bit more. And then she shows up again when he kiss, and then she's in the wedding padana, which you don't see too much of them because they show up kind of at the ends and they do a dance. But she still does. They do a little bit more similar to the Rose Adagio. So again, but I mean, her big thing is the Rose Adagio, which is very, very hard, and Bluebird, both of which, the Bluebird, particularly for the males, is done, I think, in competition, from what I've heard. Again, I'm not a ballet expert, so I'm just an enthusiast, but I enjoyed this. I do like Ballet Arizona. I do have season tickets, so I go every year now. This is my second year with season tickets, so I greatly enjoy it. I highly recommend it. Sleeping Beauty was absolutely beautiful and absolutely wonderfully well done. If your children like ballet and they like live theater, this is great. Go to see your local, if you live in Arizona, go to see Ballet Arizona. If you don't, look at your local ballet. The tickets aren't always that bad. Sometimes you can find them on sale, and I pay decently, but again, I'm an adult, and I'm been always into ballet, so now that I'm able to afford it, I can. My seat chart is great for Nutcracker. I might review Nutcracker this year, we'll see. But that is it for this video. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. Next month, I think I rearranged things. We're not going to be doing Pocahontas. I'm going into Swan Lake. I don't know if I'm going to review the ballet because I may watch it and review because I believe I saw it from Ballet Arizona last year. I'd have to double check. And I may have reviewed it last year. I'm not sure. But like and subscribe. Leave a positive comment if you have one. And I will see you next time. Thank you.